Hey guys, so welcome back to the channel. I have another interesting video. This time is an Indmar computer, 2010 6.0 liters Indmar, and that is an original Indmar computer. These both can have a FP506 or the Indmar original module. And this one, in this case, is the original Indmar. Is a 80-pin connector, one connector ECM. Part number is actually E controls, right? And the part number for this module is A08000. So 3 zeros. It has a sticker with a number in here, 159491. And that is again from Indmar. So the concern, let me move you as normal as I do. So you see the computer connected. I'm using one of my universal harnesses, let's say. So it's some empty spaces that I'm not using, but everything that I need for the test is already plugged in. In order to communicate, I'm using Diagnostics Rinda, and this uses the connector 94029, which is a CAN adapter. So it's a CAN bus communication. And I'm going to show you all the diagrams and the pinouts for the computer so you can understand where I am connected. All right, so let me move you over to the screen. Let me go in order right here. Perfect. All right, so in the screen right now, I got the order for repair. This is from John in Motorboat Mechanics in North Carolina. It says no response from fuel pump or the starter, and it's a 6.0 Indmar, like you said in there. And all the numbers there, I was reading hard, they're all in here. All right, so let me get into the next picture, which is going to be connections. All right, so these are all the pinouts. I'm going to keep it on the screen so you can read mostly what is in here, but I'm going to show you in separate screens what I have all the connectors. So let me go into the next picture, which is the next part of the connector up to pin 80. This uses a signal in pin 51. The only thing I can do is pointing here. Yeah, you can see the red pointer. Pin 51 is no, not 51, pin 52. It's a digital input, so it needs to be grounded in order to tell the computer that you are cranking the engine. And that will trigger in pin 73 the starter relay activation. All right, so going into the diagram, which I have, this is an original manual for Indmar, specifically for this computer. So this is the ECM power relay, which I'm actually not using in here, so I'm not sure why I opened this one. All right, so this is the voltages. This is nice from Indmar to put into one location, all the powers and all the grounds for the ECM. And since it's a one connector, it's pretty easy to test. So we have powers in pins 8, 11, 26, and 59, and then grounds in pin 21, 40, and 60. And this is a diagnostics manual that gives the technician the availability to quickly locate the tests that are required. Let's say, if you have the SPN 168 with the FMI 15, which is the default codes, right? It's a battery voltage, battery height. They tell you what to test. Not sure why is this one again. Okay, this is the starter relay. As I mentioned before, it's in pin 73, and we can see that it's a ground side activation, right? Because if we follow this and onto the E connector on that relay, it goes through the coil, and the other side of the coil is connected to battery positive. That will close the voltage that is being provided from pin N over through the relay onto pin D over to the starter solenoid, right? So that's how it starts. You see why it's not showing more pictures, because I know I have plenty. So let me see. Let me show you the fuel pump relay. The fuel pump relay is in pin 5. Same kind of situation, right? So it's ground side activation again through the relay coil and then out to power. So the control side of that relay it has a constant battery power, and it will be controlled ground side control from the computer on pin 5. That will supply this power on 8A, right here, where I'm moving that red arrow, through the relay contactor over to Y to the fuel pump positive and that's how the fuel pump will be or will run. What else I have in here? So I show you the powers and grounds, the pins. We have also the COM bus. For communication, this computer actually has 2 COM buses, and you can read, if you want, what it says in there. Just pause the video and you can read the entire description. All I need in here to connect to the scanner is in pin 64 and pin 65, CON high and CON low, right? So that's pretty simple in there. Let me see what else we have. The firewall reference and sensor ground. I am connected right now into pins 4 and pin 3. Pin 4 is the firewall reference and pin 3 is the sensor ground. And I have a meter connected that we will be able to see if the firewall reference comes on or not. All right, so those are the connections pretty briefly. Let me now move you over to, let me see which one is, I think it's better here. Like that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to put the meter. Yes, we have it. And then diagram, which I might have to move. Yes, I'm going to have to move that one. Just give me 1 second, guys. The only thing, if I use this one, you won't. Well, it's the same because I can show you what I'm doing. Let's see if I can move this up here. Then move this one close. I have another diagram that I want to turn on so you can see what I'm activating or trying to attempt the connection. Let me see how that looks into this capture. Actually looks pretty good too. The only thing is I'm going, yeah, you cannot see the yeah, I think this is the best capture. All right, let's try to attempt a communication. So let me go over to the diagram. So in here in diagram, you have multiple selections, right? So you can see, I don't know why it's double. Yeah, I know why it's double because it's double pit. So let me turn one off. Yeah, that one. And then you can read better from there. So you have this page on the bottom where it says double click for outboard. If I double click in here, it goes to the next part of the menu, which is for the outboards. We're not an outboard, so I'm going to double click back to go back to that first menu. And I'm looking to the Indmar. This one is a 2009 and up. And when you click on here on the diagram, you can see the selections. Like if I click on the next one, it gives me different type of computer. So this one is very easy to understand. That is the branded ECM, Indmar branded ECM. That is the one we need to talk. All right, so I'm going to turn this on. Well, we can see immediately the fuel pump relay coming on. So I forgot to mention that. I have 2 test lights. I'm going to separate them. So this one is the fuel pump and this one is the starter. So I'm going to turn that off one more time. I have to completely, well, it all depends because I didn't put any ignitions. So right now I'm putting powers and grounds on, powers and ignition into one switch. So when I turn this one on, we can see the fuel pump coming on. So this immediately tells me, John, that the problem is not here and the problem is most likely in the boat. We got a firewall reference, which is showing me the computer is actually indeed talking. But let's connect. All right, this is detecting the engine control modules and it is talking good. So this is already telling me that it's also asking me, you can have all these sub-menus. It's engine data, injector monitor, sea trail monitor, warning monitor, throttle monitor, fuel control, gauge monitor, O2 feedback, high. Let me see what is in the fuel control. Let me see. Yeah, this is just a smaller data pit. And we can actually select either one. So when you select in here, it will try to retrieve all the fault codes that are in there, and it's going to tell me, the values. I got nothing connected realistically because of the test that I'm doing. It's fuel pump relay and a starter. So this is supposedly a computer that is not starting. And we have 820.04 hours. We can read codes in here. And these ones are very nice because you have also freeze frame. So if I click in here, right? So yes, you guys are seeing that. If I click in here, it says right now, previously active trouble code list. Fuel pump relay driver open. So they have an open circuit. If I double click in there, it's going to give me the freeze frame. Standard freeze frame, trouble code. So it's not really much of a fault code to go by, probably because it was unplugged. But yeah, we can see how they had a fuel pump relay driver fault. So this is looking definitely more and more like in the boat. So we got communication. Let me see if we have any tests as far as relays in here. Compression, drive-by-wire. I like it. It has a drive-by-wire test. So relay tests, we can do the relay tests. This test should perform with key on engine off. So let's do that. Ignition relay, turn all relays on. Well, the starter didn't, well, I'm not sure if they consider that as a relay, but we can see the fuel pump relay on. So let's turn them off. Exit. And I'm going to show, I'm going to probably plug the main power relay to make sure that we're also working. As I was saying before, the starter, I have this wiring here. This is the starter signal to, to start. This is looking for the ground. This is like you pushing the button to start the boat. If I turn in here, that should put the starter to start. And it is. You see how it releases, so it's cranking, 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 cranking. And it's going to do it probably for like 5 or 6 seconds or so. And it should go off, and it's doing it completely normal. So far, it's nothing wrong with this computer here, John. I'm going to check the main power relay, because if the main power relay is not coming on, then the fuel pump relay or the starter will not work. So we need to make sure that we check that out. So let me go over to the diagram, because I don't have that one. I run out of relays. Let me see what I have. The main relay, starter, power, starter. I know I saw it. Fuel pump relay, starter relay. I don't know why I saw it before. Let me just get into, yeah, main power relay. I have it here. So it says the main power relay is the same thing. It's on pin 8. So I'm going to move the fuel pump. Let me see. Do I have another one? No, this will not work. I can actually make it work. Give me 1 second just to rig out so I can put the third relay in there. 1 second, guys. All right, guys, I got a third light. So this one is going to be the main power relay, fuel pump, and a starter. We will see that in a correct sequence. So the fuel pump is going to come first, because the way I have the powers and grounds connected in there, but that's fine. So we can see the fuel pump, and that will go off. All right, so that's the fuel pump relay. So it's being activated properly. Now let's go to the main power relay, because I have that one connected here. So that didn't come on. Yeah, let me try to do it one more time. Okay, I have to do it really quickly, because otherwise it doesn't work, because it sees it has power. You see that? But yeah, so both are coming on. So let's do it one more time. You can see the 4 volt going out. So main power relay, yeah, you can see both lights lighting, and then both lights going out. And then the starter, the same thing, right? The only thing, yeah, the main power relay, it is actually coming off. So is the fuel pump, because the engine is not running. If I would have been to put a crankshaft position sensor signal, a crank sensor signal, then those fuel pumps in the main power relay will come back on. Why? Because they don't need to be on all the time unless the computer needs to be running, right? So but they're working completely proper. I don't see any issues in this computer for your concerns, John. Again, one more time, fuel pump and main relay. You can see both. And then the starter, one more time. So yeah, nothing wrong with this computer. And if I go over now to the activations and diagram, and I do the relay test, I can turn the ignition relay on. And now you can see how now only this one is on, but not the fuel pump. Why? Because we didn't turn that one on. So I'm going to exit. I'm going to go back to that same test. If I turn all relays on, now both of those come on, right? So we have both the fuel pump and the main relay. I'm going to keep those in here so you can see both lights. I'm going to turn them off. Just the main relay, well, let's wait for that to exit. All right, main relay on. The one on the farther on my right. Turn it off. Turn both relays on. Turn them off. It takes like 3 seconds to turn off. But they're working properly. So we got 5-volt reference, sensor grounds, powers and grounds are tested, and I can activate it with the computer. I mean, with the diagnostics. John, is absolutely nothing wrong in this computer as far as you're concerned. I hope that at least my tests can shed some light to you. Very important to always check powers and grounds when you're doing a test on a computer. Let me get that meter out. So test that you need to do before you come down a computer. Main powers, main grounds, and load test. Use a test light. These are small test lights, but you want to check the powers and the grounds. You want to use at least a halogen bulb. Why? Because that is in between 6 to 8 amps. That is enough of a load test. If you see something dim or something that you suspect that something is wrong. Because those are grounds for the computer. You're not testing a ground for the starter, right? If you're testing a starter motor ground or a main ground for the battery or so, you need to put a bigger load, right? So use the starter as a load. Crank it, use your multimeter and see if the voltage drop test shows any other way. Then if you got good powers and good grounds, turn the computer on. Make sure that you got 5-volt reference. Because if the 5-volt reference are being shorted by a sensor, that will bring down the computer. Why? Because 5-volt references also sometimes shared internally for the microprocessor or memory. So if that 5-volt reference is shorted, it can take down the computer, and then you have no fuel pump and no starter. And it's not that the computer is bad, it's that you have a shorted sensor. I hope, again, this is instructive, is helpful, and you can see all the connections and everything that this computer needs. I also want to address one thing, because I noticed that in here. Let me move you here 1 second before we close the video. Let me go over to the powers and grounds, because that was an error on this diagram. If you see pin 8 is calling as a battery positive, but it's not a battery positive, because if I go over to the main power relay, look what the main power relay is the activation for the main power relay. Pin 8 is the activation for the main power relay. So yes, it will give power to the ECM, but it's not providing power to anything. This is a ground side control, which we can see on the relays, and it's on the other side of the relay is going to battery positive. So it's a control side. So that's an error on this page, and I want to show that because it's very important to give the correct data. This is very important also to always double check with the pinouts, and it can be errors. I mean, this is original information. Just think about that. So let's go over to the pinouts. Where is the other one? I think I only have one open. Yeah, let me open because this is the number 2. I need to open the number 1, which is right here. Yeah, we see pin 8. It says power relay control. You see right here, right when I'm moving my arrow, you can see how pin 8 it says relay LS. Doesn't say what relay is, but if you read further, it says saturation power relay control. So it's not a power. So always check everything. I can put this in here and then select the one with other pins. Let me see which one is that one. That should be here. So this is the way that I will compare this. So what is pin 11? Relay switch BBAT. Okay, that's battery. Pin 26. Pin 26 is key on start. So that's an ignition 12-volt battery, but that's fine. And then last 59, which is on the next page. 59 is battery 12 volts continuous power. So that's a constant battery power, right? So we know that those are powers, but the pin 8 is not a battery power. So that's an error on that image. And I want to show you because I was almost falling into that one as well. I'm glad that I never connect always all the powers and all the grounds because it's not really necessary. But now I did because I want to make sure that everything is tested 100%. I test the sensor grounds. I test the fiber references. I end all the relays with you. So this is as much as I want to go with this one. I mean, they had no fuel pump or starter. That's their concern. That concern is not happening here. Where is the problem? In the boat. All right, guys. Talk to you later. See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe. Remember, every time you subscribe, YouTube promotes more and more of my videos. And that's how you find me. It's for free. So if you help my channel, my small business, I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And if you have any computers, automotive or marine instrument clusters, please contact my website. Will be on the title of this video. You can copy and paste it, or it's the same name as in my YouTube channel, MikeSalazarDiagnostics.com. My name is spelled a little different, but it sounds as normal Mike. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye-bye.